Okay, for this activity, you're going to be selecting a material and doing a little bit of research on this and then creating a presentation that you'll present to the class. So for example, I created one on copper. All right. Notice that I used our techniques here as far as creating a presentation that carries a standard theme, standard transitions and animations, so that we keep it professional, or at least as professional as we can. So on our title slide, obviously we want to see what our material is. You can select any material from our different categories. It doesn't have to be a metal. It can come from all sorts of different categories. And I want you to report out on at least the following things. All right. So one of the first things we want to know is where it comes from. So what I did is showed a little picture here of a copper mine. Did a little bit of research as far as look back into time when we first discovered and started using copper. Looked at mines as far as the ore. We get about 0.6% copper out of it. U.S. mills about 1.9 million. And then something we talk about here, which obviously I'm not putting in great detail here, which is something that you should do, but this is kind of notes for you. It talks about how do we extract the copper from the ore. There's a process called froth flotation. And I'm not going to go into great detail now, but this is something that you would. So what do we use copper for? So I chose to show a couple different examples here. As far as presenting, you can have text, or we could just use pictures and then use those in order to describe how copper is used. We're going to talk about the physical properties of these materials, and there's a website that we're going to go out to that's called MatWeb. And if I get out here to MatWeb, when we get to this site, there's a little section down here that you can type in what you're looking for, what material you're choosing. So I chose copper. I'm going to hit search, and you're going to notice it's going to come up with a ton of different varieties of copper that have different combinations of materials. So I chose to look at just copper, cold work copper, so just kind of plain straight up copper. And then when we select that, we're going to get a bunch of different material notes up here as far as uses and different things. We can look at its physical properties, chemical properties, mechanical properties. One of the things that I want you to report out is take a look at its density. We're going to take a look at its hardness, which is going to be an interesting thing that we can compare it to other things. We're also going to look at its modulus of elasticity, maybe its melting point, or maybe some other different properties that you found interesting. Okay, so what I did is I reported out density, Rockwell hardness, modulus elasticity, electrical resistivity, specific heat, and melting point. And then I compared it against steel so you can see kind of how they rate. So you can see that steel is a little bit less dense, but yet it is a lot harder. And our modulus elasticity here, it's measured in gigapascals. You may want to convert that so we can see it as we typically see it, PSI. And we can see that steel is a good electrical conductor, but not quite as nice as copper. We looked at the different specific heats, and so kind of reported out and gave something to compare it to, something that you should take a look at. Copper dangers, I looked at copper as far as the human body, that we actually need copper in our body. There's different diseases that you can have if you have too much copper or if you have too little copper. I also found a couple of videos, which I'll have to go out to the presentation mode and take a look at these. On copper, as far as a danger in theft, right now copper is going for a little over $4 a pound. So I found a couple of videos that talked about that. And it's important to find those different videos, different things you can bring in order to create a better presentation. If you are going to use videos, please keep them to a minimum so that they're only a minute or two long. If we have to, we can show just segments of those videos. Please don't find anything that's a half an hour long and expect to show the whole entire thing. We also want to look at how that material breaks down. All right, we know that copper, when we originally will install, say for roofing, it's this nice shiny copper color. But then after a while, it's going to start to build up this corrosion on the surface and turn this patina, this green patina here. And we're going to find out that with copper, that patina actually becomes a way of resisting decay. Okay, if you chose steel, I might talk about rust, other materials. Everything breaks down, so we want to take a look at how they break down. And then what do we do with copper after we're done? What do we do with your material after we're done with it? We want to specifically look at recycling. Obviously, anything can just be thrown away, but let's take a look at how can we reuse that product. So what methods are out there to recycle the materials that you chose? All right, so take a good bit of time here and do a good job with this and create a nice presentation that we'll present. We're looking for a presentation that's going to be between 3 and 5 minutes long. When you're finished this, please make sure that you upload it to your intranet folder.